Hey, welcome back to the Ready State. Questions come in all the time about, hey, I just sprained or tweaked my ankle or turned my wrist or fell. How do I manage this? Well, let's keep in mind that in order that you can sort of maximize your healing response, it's helpful to understand the phases of healing. So initially, anytime we have any kind of tissue trauma, which could include exercise, we're in sort of an acute inflammatory phase. And so our body senses that we've had some exercise we need to adapt to, or in this case, an ankle sprain or a wrist strain, and it launches an inflammatory response. Why? To protect, to heal, to get the garbage out, bring the groceries back in. Right? Think about if you had some light bruising. Basically what happens is your body's so sophisticated that it will clot that area that maybe is damaged, if it's a capillary bed, for example, and then it will open up the peripheral vasculature on either side, and those will take up the blood flow demands, and then that tissue will heal itself and rebuild. The clot will dissolve, the blood starts flowing through, and the peripheral and collateral tissues go back to normal. It's pretty incredible. But the real issue is, up front, we're less concerned about the strain. Of course, we're always managing it, but most of us are concerned about, hey, something hurts. And the question we got is, hey, I sprained my wrist, I fell golfing, and now I can do a lot of things, but there are a couple positions that hurt. So keep in mind that oftentimes tissues will become unpainful. Your brain will not ever pick it up as a threat long before the tissue healing happens. And what we always try to remind people is, hey, bad ankle sprain, 4 to 6 weeks of time. And the reason we say that is that inflammatory response starts immediately, can run upwards of 4 to 6 days. Then we move into that next tissue kind of healing phase, which is the proliferation phase, which is your body starting to really lay down the collagen, rebuild, remodel, whatever it needs. And then we move after kind of 4 to 6 weeks into that, it could be shorter, it could be longer, into that maturation phase, which can take upwards of 2 years, believe it or not, for some tissues to fully remodel. For example, we say that, hey, we think that ACL takes a full year. Even though you're back to sport, you're doing what you're doing, these tissues take time to sort of mature and normalize, right? So first things first, after a tissue injury, an acute injury, we say sometimes it may never be normal, but we'll normalize it. And you might not even ever notice the difference. But up front, the key here for you is to appreciate that your chief goal initially through that inflammatory phase and for that proliferative phase is to manage your swelling and congestion. And that is done chiefly and predominantly through movement. Your brain and body are pretty miraculous in terms of the big 2.5 million years of human evolution. And it's not an accident that we kind of piggybacked all the decongestion mechanisms into the movement, because that's the one thing that we're going to continue to do. So the old idea about rest, don't use it, well, that makes good sense because we need to give the tissues a chance to be unloaded so they can normalize. We don't want to keep kind of picking the scab or ringing the bell. Does it hurt? Does it hurt? Does it hurt? Does it hurt? You know who you are. But the idea here is that, man, I need to decongest and move that along. And what we often see is that people fail to move those tissues, those swelling tissues along, and then that's the chief concern. So normally, when we have an ankle tweak, ankle sprain, or some kind of strain of a tissue that's pretty significant, we say, hey, it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks. But your goal to be ready for day 2 is to cook on day 1. And day 2 sets you up for day 4, et cetera, et cetera. So chiefly, we have movement in pain-free ranges. We don't want to create a chronic or persistent condition on this thing, so we do want to respect your pain. 2, what ranges can I work in, and how do I keep those tissues moving? That's my number 1 movement goal. My congestion goals usually are around compression, so we love the voodoo floss to push up. We start at the tip of the finger and we work up to the shoulder. We start at the ankle and we work up. That circumferential compression is an easy way to drive fluid out of that interstitial tissue. We can use, of course, Mark Pro and H-Wave. We can decongest those things, right, with heat and massage. One of the things that we love is dropping in blood flow restriction early on. So anytime someone comes in with a little tendinopathy or something that's hot, boom, they get a blood flow restriction flush, which means We wrap at kind of 20 to 30% discomfort, 60 to 80% tightness at the hip, and we do some movement. And there's lots of good information. Our kids at Smart Tools, our favorite use of the blood flow restriction, but any cuffs that you have access to, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. The idea here though is, hey, in this acute phase, as I'm working towards this, I'm going to eventually get out of pain, but as I challenge tissues to come back online, I may still have some swelling. Why? Because the vasculature may not have been rebuilt. I may have tissues that are sort of like a cake's being set up for the first time. So the thing that I watch the most is swelling. And if someone shows up into my gym with swelling, I'm like, hey, that's what we're going to focus on. We're not going to worry about your range of motion. We're going to get your movement back, pain-free ranges, so that your brain thinks, hey, we can turn this back on. But as long as something is congested, then we're going to be sending lack of good information back to the brain, which means the brain is going to make decisions that may not be well informed. That's the way of thinking about it, right? And so as long as a tissue is congested and swollen, not only will I may not have access to all my musculature or information about position awareness, which is true, but also we see that those tissues tend not to be able to knit down. That swollen and pushed and congested tissue not only is not getting the oxygen and blood flow and nutrients it needs, it's congested, but that swelling also keeps those fibers from knitting down and realigning and doing what it needs to do so we can get through the proliferation phase into the tissue maturation phase. So straight up front, understand acute, 4 to 6 weeks, maybe only 2 weeks, right? Hey, you just have to baby it and be cool because accidents happen. And let me remind you, finally, that no one is a fast healer. There's no such thing. You either heal at the rate of human physiology or you're below that. So if you find that you're a really fast healer and you're doing all the tricks, you're actually healing at the speed that human beings heal. And anything less than that is opportunity to get yourself desensitized, decongested, and back playing. So hang tough, still have a painful range. Now you have a quick test around that. You can work upstream and downstream on managing those kind of soft tissue compensations, the way that your body's trying to splint or protect. But in the meantime, blood flow, decongestion, lymphatic movement is the game. Hopefully that helps.